Hello there. Hi, my subscriber. Here we are today, and I brought a little bit of my art that I've done in the past, and I wanted to show you a really cool thing. So I've done a lot of art of landscapes of varying kinds, and then I got them put onto these playing cards. So it's a website called Make Playing Cards, and you can do whatever you want. You don't have to make them into playing cards. You can just write whatever you want. And then I made another set. So I made my own just for one, to have my art put on the cards, and I'll show you some of them so that you can see the effect. But I just wanted to point out that a lot of the things that we're doing in the sketches, you'll also be putting into use when you look at a landscape. I can't remember if this was from a photograph, but then I stylized it with sort of this Van Gogh sky. But you'll see that the light source would have been coming from over here, and here's your darker values of the trees. And this is pastel. So I work a lot in pastel, but it's a very challenging medium to frame and keep nice because they're actually chalk. It's not really chalk, but it's called that, or soft pastel. So keeping everything nice and clean on the glass can be a real challenge. So what I do is I photograph them and have them printed onto canvas. So this is one of Italy. This is a local scene that I did, and again, you can see this shadow value here. And your measuring is basically the same idea, and things that you do in order to create distance. Like I would have been squinting at the scene and then looking for my values in terms of the darkness there to create that 3D look. And then you see how things come into that center area, and they're getting smaller. The log, same idea. Amidst the trees, you can see the values of light and dark. And then I'll just go through some of these. There's another landscape with a little, so you're measuring, I wasn't very precise. This is just something that I did in acrylic. And you've got the shadows underneath the trees. And the light source isn't overly profound, probably coming from this area. It could have been either way, really. This is another sort of impressionist scene of clouds casting shadows on the distant mountains. So I would have been squinting and looking for these darker areas. Another one, and I put a little bit of music in the sky in terms of some sheet music. This is acrylic. And then your values again. So if you're squinting at all of these landscape scenes when you're out and about, that's a really good habit to get into. And again, here in the rocks. Cloud shapes, again impressionist, and you can see that it's a dark background because I usually work on a black surface because I like the contrast of the pastels. Another landscape scene in the distance, the values, the light source coming from the left, because I don't know if you can see, but the little pilings have got a little bit of light hitting them there. And just another impressionist one's got some marks on it because I use these as my meditation cards to just give me little prompts, and so you can write text on the other side. Another pastel, more pastel, and then this one of an animal with, a buffalo, and then it's got the shadow quite pronounced. So a lot of it is just fun impressionism that I do, but you still need to have all those drawing skills. All right, so let's do something different today. In terms of a shape. So I've got this bottle, and it's just so that we can do some ellipsis kind of drawing and doing something different. The straight edge and then the curves along the bottom here. So you've got curves here, the curve of the shoulder, and then you've got the circular things. So you just want to be practicing when you're doing. So I've got my model on the opposite side. I'm going to see how that works for me. Shadow being cast in here. So I'm going to do some warm-ups as usual, and I've got my mat board, and I'm going to be doing it to pull a straight edge as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so we've got our warm-ups. We can just place our arm, checking in, relaxing, and then you can just begin anywhere that you want on this is just copy paper. I'm just going to start to pull lightly some lines, placing just doing some sweeping lines. So I'm coming from the wrist, I can feel it in the forearm, and then I'm going to just start to do some circles this way, interlock them. This is just basically to get the movement of the pencil onto the paper, right? And you can do whatever you want. They don't have to be the same. You can go over them, go the other direction. Think about the muscles being developed to do these precise movements. Start to flick the line through it. Let's do some straight. So if you're righty, you're going that way. Different directions will be easier. And it's really helpful to set a time. So let's say we're going to do, I won't do it as long on the video, but if you just have a clock handy and you go, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes of warm up. And so just check in with your clock, checking in with your body, do some curves there, because we're doing more curved shapes. So some semicircles. At the bottom of my bottle, I'm going to just do some of these, and it's quite because the bottle is dark. I'm going to be doing some darker pressing, and then I'm going to be doing some shading like this. Now I'm going to come across and just line down. Not lying, but line down. So there we go. Pull. And now if I look at the bottle, I know that those ellipses are going to be sort of like this. So I'm going to start to do some of those and then go over in the other direction, not moving. I can squiggle across, not moving my arm, but just placing the implement, whatever you do, and go around, change, come down, and you can overlap. It's not a problem because this is your sort of just get messy area. Other way. You can fill them in if you want, getting quite dark. You can do strokes across or back and forth zigzags. You can do light filling in. So again, I'm moving the implement back and forth with my fingers here to create sort of a graded, and as I start to press harder, and then I can lighten up and do that again here, perhaps pressing quite hard, and then I can do that duckbill thing here. So trying to make my lines nice and tight, do some shading, crosses, really feeling those muscles in the forearm working as you relax other parts of your body. So firm but not tense. So if I look at my subject, and I know that I've got some things I need to be aware of. I'm not going to do the lettering. You could do the lettering precisely by measuring it very carefully, but mainly what I want to work on is these circular shapes. I'm probably not going to be too fussy about the threads, but I want to make sure that I can do these lines, get this curve at the bottom so that I understand about measuring that. And I'm just going to do it as size, to the direct correlation to the actual. So now I'm sitting back, I've got my arm extended just like in our other two sessions. The edge of this in my eye, I can squint or look at them both. It's always easier, I find, to just close one eye rather than, and you can squint, but I think the closing of the one eye, I'm away from the implement or from the object. The edge of this is measured to the top of there, and then I'm going to grab that measurement at the bottom. And again, we're not trying to do the exact, so just anywhere. I'm going to put this here, and yeah, we're good. So that, and then my measurement, I've grabbed it on the bottom of my implement there. Okay, so I'm going to check that because I tend to go a little bit short. So again, I've made sure that my eraser isn't going to add material to the area I want to remove material from. I'm gonna come back in here, take that out. And I can probably spend a bit more time doing that. So I've got my height, and there'll be a few measurements that I want to take, like the opening of the bottle, where the screws, threads end, but I'm just going to do the width now. So sitting straight up, implement about the 3 inches. My board is on a slant. So from the same distance away, I'm going to grab that at the edge of this. And then I'm going to take the measurement across, and I'm not doing the label measurement, I'm just doing the bottle. So I'm going to put it about there. My little cactuses, you can hear them rattling. So let me grab that measurement again. So just like when you're doing anything with your construction work, measure a couple of times, and then you can draw, and very lightly. I'll move you guys apart. So sitting back again, taking the measurement, comparing it to what I've done here. I'm happy with that. It might be slightly bigger. So I'm just going to join these two lightly and then make sure that both sides from center are equal. And I've done the same thing that I usually do, which is make one side too small. There. This one. Take it again, so I'm going to grab it here. Sit up. No, I've gone too big. Pull it in a bit. Pull it in a bit. Let's use this eraser. So there's those measurements. And then I'm going to do the far edge here to where the threads and the shoulder comes across. So I'm doing the same measurement as I did for the height, but this time I know that I'm going to be looking for the edge of the threads right to where the shoulder begins and the threads end. And then I'm going to come and mark that in roughly here. And then I'm going to take the width of the opening of the bottle. So that's quite small. And I'm not taking this far edge, I'm taking the inner edge to the inner edge here measurement. And I'm sitting back and it's quite small, so I'm gonna look there, take it again. And you can be as precise as you want when you're doing this. So now the width across of the outer edge. And then the inner edge. So I'm just going to start to, because I don't want this video to be too long. So this is the outer edge. I'm going to join these circles just like we've done with the fruits. And again, we're going to come. Now I'm sitting back and I can see through the glass that there's the thread on the distant side. I'm going to lightly draw that in, curving this way. And I've got some darkness here. I'm not going to do that much. I'm going to carry on with my measuring. So I see that the bottle is curving out of the distance, going away from me. So it's curving. So I want to take those measurements, and this time I'm going to take it from the edge of where I can see that it's going upwards at the bottom of the curve, right to the top of the bottle itself, so that I can get that sort of smiley face measurement. So top to the curvature, and I know that this is my outer edge. I'm going to do the other side, top of bottle to the curvature, going out of the distance to the top of the smiley face, and it's here. So I've got my widths marked, and now I'm going to start joining everything. I haven't done this one yet, but to get a straight edge of your bottle, what you can do is take the reverse side of your mat, and so long as you've got a straight edge on your paper and the straight edge of the mat, you can take the original line that you did to mark the width here, and then mark it onto your mat, and then keeping this aligned with the edge of your paper, move this down so these are equal. This was the mark I made as a reference, and then add it. And then I'm going to come back up because there's my mark. I'm going to put it here. Now there's a curve that I'm going to deal with in a minute. And then for the other side, to keep that edge straight, I'm going to use this straight edge here on the left come up to where I made the mark that I want to pull, and I don't know if it's, I think it's that one, put it onto my mat, move the straight edge down, align it with the mark on the mat, up again, and we may need to move this down, but there's my mat mark. So I know those are my outer edges, and I'm just going to join them together. There's my smiley face at the bottom. So join this, there's my smiley curvature as it goes out a distance, and start to just pull those lines so that they join. And I am going to go up to here. I know it needs to have a shoulder on it, and I'll do that in a minute. So now I'm going to take the measurement of the height from the top here that I can see in the distance, which is that edge, to where the end of the threads are. So pencil extended, matching it to the top of far edge of the bottle and grabbing where the threads end. So now I got to align it in the same place here, mark it here, threads bottom, and then I'm going to come across with the width of the threaded area and place it here to here. I'm going to sit back, and I'm going to look at how far down that shoulder is as I start to just gently curve the bottle out, coming up. And you can take more time, but because I want to keep the videos to about 30 minutes, I'm not making as many measurements and going back into the measuring as I would if I wasn't thinking about the time, because it's I'm trying to keep them about 30 minutes each. So you get the idea. So now I'm going to look, when I sit back, I'm going to go, okay, what do I think? I think this needs to come a little bit more like this. And then I'm going to start to look for my highlights. So I can see that there's a very defined highlight here, here on the threads, here on the threads, a little bit coming through. I'm not going to do reflections, or that you could get really into it. You could get really involved. Now I'm going to check any other highlight. Just kind of one here, and then a little bit of sort of lighter one here. And then we're looking for our darks. So when I look at the base here where there's that absence of light caused by the shadow, I'm going to do what I usually do, which is do those little short lines coming out. And I did sharpen this pencil with a knife, because the sharpener was not being cooperative in giving me a lot of exposed lead, which I like, or not that it's lead, but the graphite. So there's, and the bottle itself, as I say, is quite dark, but I'm not going to deal with anything like that at this moment. I'm just going to come back around, making sure that I've got that curvature. There's darkness in here. Now I'm going to deal with the label measuring, because that is the one thing I'm going to put in. So I'm going to sit back again, and I'm going to grab where the top of the bottle is, same far edge with the top of my implement, to where the top of the label is. I'm going to come onto the same place on the drawing, then I'm going to mark my label top area. And when I'm looking at it, I can't see any of the bottle on this side, but I can see some of it on this side. So I know that it's going to come from here, curving around, but there's no mark that I need to make in terms of how far over this goes, so I can see bottle. But on this side, I'm going to take the other measurement. So I'm going to sit back, I'm going to grab the measurement from the edge here to where the label ends. So sitting out, grab it, and it's quite small, because there's not much of the bottle being seen from this vantage point. It's mostly the label. And again, I would probably take more time to do a measurement to make sure that this was really straight. And same with the bottom in terms of the label. And I can see, I'm going to grab one more measurement, which is where does the label curve away from me? And there's like from the bottom edge that I can see. So I'm placing my implement at the bottom edge of the bottle, grabbing the measurement to where the label curves away from me, and it's quite a small little increment, so it's like there. So now I'm going to join these. is the perspective of the curvature. And I can see that this isn't straight, and that's going to annoy me, but in any case. And then there's the black label that comes in here saying freshly squeezed. But now I'm just going to go and do some dark and light. So the bottle is dark coming in here. There's not a lot of difference between where the shadow is and the color of the bottle, and that's fine. I'm just going to practice doing what I did over here with some shading, nice and light, and enjoying the process of putting the material. And I can see the liquid curving in here. I'm going to preserve that. Draw this coming curving and down. And I could use my straight edge just to make sure that I'm not going to go outside of that line. So now I'm going to do a little bit of work on the threads. So I can see that there's this little bit of an outcropping here. It's quite dark and it's coming up like smiley. Again, I could measure those heights if I wanted to be very precise. And so it's important that you position yourself so that you aren't changing your perspective of the subject a lot, because that'll just annoy you as you go. So there's here, and then there's a lot of darkness here. And again, lightly coming across, following the shape of the bottle. Avoiding the highlighted areas that I preserved. Darkening, darkening, curving. There's the thread here that I already did a little bit. Thread here, curving around. And then there's a shadow or some kind of reflection as well here, before the highlight that I preserved. And you can just come across these. So I can see that as the bottle is curving up here, that there's a darker area like this. I'm going to come across, pulling small lines from here, down, down, into it, curve, curve. So squinting, where do I see light? Where do I see dark? The liquid inside is dark. And how dark is it? It's almost as dark as this area. So I'm going to keep applying the material out of the implement of the pencil or whatever you're using. I'm not really going to put this black part of the label on there. Now I'm just referencing to see what is it that I'm pleased with, what do I want to keep adding. So the shoulder, I'm happy with that. You know, based on the amount of time that I want to allot. This is quite a bit darker. So I'm going to come back down in here and really darken this up just with my back and forths. 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to sketch, and these are little leaves. This is orange room scent, so I'm just going to draw the little leaves of the orange blossom that I can see here. And I could do a lot of detail. Omitting the label that says freshly squeezed, I'm just going to curve the orange around here. There's another leaf that I can see. So any bottle, you don't need to have one with a label on it. It would be easier to not have a label. But my daughter gave me this, so I like this bottle. Now this orange is stippled and you could spend some time doing that. You could spend a lot of time doing the lettering but I'm not really interested in learning how to be a letterer, so I'm going to leave that. And I can also see that this area here is almost as dark as this. So I'm going to come back in. Again, I'm just moving the pencil, and I'm holding it farther back at this point. It gives you a good vantage point visually. That's why they made paintbrushes so long, is that you aren't right up close to your subject, to your painting. You can be back a little bit so that you can see better what you're doing. And now I'm going to start to do a little bit more on the threads. What's going on here? Darkness inside. So it's all about seeing the dark and the light. That's basically a lot about the creating of the values. And then the measuring gives you, when perspective is shifting, this is darkened in here. A little orange with the little leaves. And I come in here and really curve around, adding the dark shoulder. And then I'm going to look for the shadow that it's casting and the value of it, so it's not nearly as dark as the one closest, but it's gradient a bit here. So I'm going to join these, letting my pressing and sweeping so that it gets lighter and I get more practiced at those pullings of lines. And then I'm going to swish in some of the table. I like the swishing a lot. Checking, squinting, looking, always going back and forth between the subject. Darkening this right here to show where it drops down into the bottle. And as I say, I could spend a lot more time on this because it's intricate, but getting those ellipses shapes, doing threads, stuff like that, measuring the sides, getting that nice and straight. So I'm going to come in here and get my measurement again. There it is. So I can line that up and make it more defined. Pull it down, keeping this edge straight. And I've gone a wee bit off my mark. On your mark. And then this one. What did I do here? This one probably. So yeah, you'd probably, after you finished your project, you could erase these from your mat so that you could use it again for a different time. Lining that with that. Just curve around. Lights. Highlights. Label. So both getting the subject drawn, but also being aware of, a couple of the things which are, well, especially the darks and lights, the way that you're moving your pencil to develop those good line skills, the way that you look at things. So once you saw the cards that I did and saw those landscapes, when you go out, all the stuff that you're using, that you're learning to do in all of the, if you're doing other inquiries about drawing, is that you want to start to see the world in that if you want to do representational. I also like to do sort of a creative interpretation, that impressionist, but it's nice when you've got the basics of the, the view, the vista, whatever it is that you're doing, kind of feeling quite in perspective, and the values to the distance. And we'll work on that as I keep adding to. the videos. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we think on the good side of the mat. And then I'm going to look at that. And again, I would fill this in and make it look more orange-like. If I was going to do something, I would probably check this edge because I feel like there's something not quite happy there for me. Darken this up a bit. And yeah, so that's our little bottle drawing. And you can use your finger to sort of soften some of those lines, or your eraser, staying away from the highlights as much as you can. I sort of went too much, so I'm going to take that out. And yeah, that's how I would start to get drawing ellipses, shapes like that. And again, looking for those values. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy your drawing and relaxing. And I will see you next time.